Good morning. Welcome back to Church, the podcast, man. I'm so excited that you guys are here. We have an amazing topic today. We're talking about ambition. Are you ambitious? And what are you ambitious for? This is something that's kind of misunderstood, like in leadership and in people in general. And so we don't want to confuse you with other terms, but ambition is something very specific. It helps us move through life. It helps us achieve goals. And without it, it's kind of hard. Without ambition, you kind of have this cycle of stop and start. You kind of have this wayward thinking. You change your goals a lot. You switch them a lot. And so today we're going to talk about, are you locked in? Are you ambitious? And what are you ambitious for? Jason, I'm going to toss it over to you because I know you've dealt with ambition quite a bit, and myself. So let's kick this thing off. And my question to you this morning is, are you ambitious?
Yes. So I agree with you. It's it can be such a positive thing, but for me, so I love how you started positive because for me, I got to tell you, man, like, excuse me, ambition, I think, reared its ugly head a little bit in my life sometimes. So what I don't want is to ever turn somebody away from being ambitious, right? But what I do want to do is challenge people about what where the source of that ambition is coming from, what your end result, what your goal is as you're being ambitious and just seeking things in life. Are we seeking the right things? And are we ambitious after the right things in terms of it being healthy in building our self-image? And I guess all that would be to say, are we pointing it back to God? You know, like, does he get the glory in the way that he kind of built ambition into us? Like, we seek betterment, we seek improvement, and we're imperfect, and God made us imperfect. So through ambition, you can improve on those things, those imperfections, and like build something really lasting and build a legacy for God on earth, right? Like build up encouragement for people. You could build those things. So I was looking up, doing some research for specifically this topic, and Philippians 2, 3, and 4 really refers to this. So Paul is writing and he says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility, consider others as more important than yourselves." And so this is something I try to drive home. I think we've talked about this before in the pod a little bit, but that's something I try to drive home with my kids all the time, is if they're fighting with each other, so I'm thinking about like soft ambition, right? So like my ambition is to be the first controller on the video game, right? It's funny for kids how that matters so much, like, or for me even. Yeah, I've had to get over it. But when I was younger, like something about being first player, there's like I don't know, some like crown, invisible crown that you wear when you get to be the first player on the video game. So the dirty secret about being first player is the only advantage is like you have the responsibility of starting the game. But then after that, like say it's some, Mario game where like everybody's playing, there is no advantage to being the first player. In fact, it's more responsibility, but just being number one, like how it's built into us like that. It's interesting how selfish that is, because at the end of the day, especially like my kids and I love playing Super Smash Brothers, which is like this Mario fighting game where, you start the game, but it's interesting. It doesn't matter if you're in first place, second place, third place, or fourth player, right? Not place, player. Like as you start the game, you're all on a level playing field. And then you just go. Everybody plays at the same time. You're all trying to do these cartoonish, like, hammer slams and different things to like knock each other off the map. But it doesn't matter what position you start in. It's about how you go about it, how you play the game. So I find it interesting how when you think about selfishness, and it's like, I know it's a childish thing. And so I don't mean to be too hard on the kids, like, or anybody for that matter that's being selfish like that. But it's just interesting how it's, to me, that's like an example of striving after something, being ambitious for something that you're being selfish and trying to get it. But what's the advantage to you? You know, like, does it really benefit you at the end of the day? And I think that's a good reminder for us as we move through life. What are we ambitious for? And is getting that first controller, like, does that really matter? Or does it matter to us? But that's the kind of challenge that we face is, so if you're like my kids and you're going after the first controller, it turns into insults sometimes. It turns into, you know, a little verbal jousting, a little physical pushing and shoving, like, give me that controller. No, it's mine. You know, it turns into this thing where an outside observer would look at that and go, what are they fighting for? Like, and by the way, fighting to be first player slows down the progress of starting the game. Like, fighting for what you think you want is actually stopping you from what you really do want. Like, we want to play the game. We want to get in there and compete and have fun. But like, fighting for this thing that doesn't really matter is distracting you from getting to the major goal of playing the game. Right? Now, I'm trying to like take that metaphor and extend it a little further. You could practice the game and get good at it. Right? So if that's your ambition, like acquiring some skills for this video game, which, by the way, we could argue whether that's really important or not. But for my kids, it's really important because it's some like bragging rights. Like, I'm good at this game. Or so maybe that's okay. Like, you're practicing. It's not hurting someone else. It's like challenging yourself. That's where ambition is good. You're pushing you. If you're literally physically pushing or shoving someone out of the way for a video game controller, that's where ambition has become selfish and you're not considering someone over yourself. And so for my kids, whenever something like that happens, we have this phrase that I make them walk through. And I say, hey, can you tell me the order of things? And again, it's kind of an eye roll or like maybe there's a huff beforehand, but it becomes a recitation of God, everyone else, myself. And I make them say it out loud.
That's good.
Because the follow-up to that is, okay, so were you putting your brother or sister above yourself just now? Or were you fighting so hard for first player that you hurt their feelings? And so that's the challenge that we face as parents, but then we face as adults, we face as people in the fallen world, is like, who are you shoving out of the way to get something that's not really worth their peace, their comfort, their mental health, if you will? What are we pushing on to people? Because so that Philippians verse continues, everyone should not look to his own interests, but rather to the interests of others. So what am I doing to help you? Not what am I doing to help myself? So I think, well, like where you were headed, for instance, I could tell, I know we're going to talk about it, is like ambitious in the gym, like being fit, being healthy, living longer. Like, that's an ambition. Like, I'm ambitious for that. But you have to be careful. Is that to the detriment of others? So great to go to the gym, not great to never see your kids because you got to go to the gym twice a day, right? Not great to miss family time because I got to go do this thing that was a healthy habit that became an unhealthy addiction, right? That's where ambition, I think, becomes unhealthy. I got to just get a little bit more money and I'll just see my kids when they're 15. You know, I got to spend more time at work and I'll just wait. And like, I'll miss one baseball game, maybe a season, you know, maybe a whole childhood, but like, hey, they'll be provided for. What does provision really mean? How are you really considering your kids, right? What does it mean to provide for them if you're not around? Because money is not going to solve the relational problem. So anyway, ambition is great. And just like many things, it's great in measure. So, and again, I started this all, I didn't mean to turn it on my kids like that. That was tough. I started with me. Yeah, that was really tough. I started with me. Like, I was too ambitious. It's so much so, I think, in my own life that it distracted me from my relationship with God. Like, I was seeking from God, hey, God, can I get these positions? Can I get these jobs? Could you go ahead and like make sure I get more money this year? Hey, God, could I get a little more favor? Like, could I just get a little bit more blessing on my life? And then, you know what I'm going to do? I'll make sure that in 2027, we have a good relationship. You know what I mean? Like, I'll make sure I start reading my Bible. Like, after, like, if you bless me, well, you know what, God, we're going to barter, me and you. I'll start reading my Bible as soon as that blessing comes through, and I'll just know, you know, and you know I'm good for it. It's like IOU. So that's what ambition can do, is leave you in a stack of IOUs. Hey, my kids, I got an IOU for time I'm going to spend with you later, right? But by then, they're not interested because they have other people that influence their lives. Hey, God, I got an IOU. And God just kind of goes like, well, okay, but you're just going to ignore this thing that could benefit your life the most? I mean, that's your choice, you know? You do not want to leave people with IOUs, especially on the most important things.
Okay.
So that's what you have to decide when you're ambitious. What's the most important thing, and what are you sacrificing? How are you pouring into the interests of others and not yourself? So that's my answer to that, big dog.
Hey,
what do you got?
So when I was kind of throwing this topic around and just doing some research and just reflecting on it, ambition itself has become like a dirty word because of how people use it to describe certain people. Like, he's ambitious, he's a leader, and basically it's described kind of what you've talked about, the person who at all costs they have to win. At all costs, they got to get to the top. Yeah. And usually what that does, it leaves a trail of bodies behind them. It leaves a trail of hurt feelings, and it leaves a lot of offense in its wake. You know, when somebody says he's ambitious, you're like, oh, watch out, here he comes. He's gonna destroy everything because he has to achieve his goal at all costs. He doesn't care what's in the way. He has to do it, right? And so that's kind of like the world's kind of connotation on ambition. So it's like, oh my goodness, he's ambitious, let's watch out. But the real heart of ambition is really like, what are you ambitious for? You kind of touched on it, right? Like, so I believe this is happening, and it shouldn't happen with Christians, but I think it happens a lot in the world of church, in God's church. I think this happens quite a bit. And it kind of goes to the heart of why we're lowercase church, right? Because remember when we started, talking about, putting a face of what we're doing to the world and talking about God's church, right? We wanted to lower the C, because there's so many churches out there that it's about the church almost more than it is about God, right? It's about the brand, the branding, and this and that, right? And trust me, I love church. I love church. I love God. I love church. I love everything about it, right? So I'm not throwing a hammer at churches, right? But I'm saying that ambition can get in the way when it is pointed at the wrong thing. So the true question is, what are you ambitious for? Are you ambitious for the things of God, or are you ambitious about having bigger, better, more numbers? When the focus gets off of what the real focus is, it's kind of like the getting the controller. Like, getting the controller gets you nowhere. It just means you're in the game, right? It doesn't mean you're going to win. It doesn't mean you're doing the right thing. It doesn't mean you know how to play. It just means you have it, right? And sometimes we chase things just to have them, and the having is not. It was never the purpose of what we were here for, right? The getting all the stuff and all the money and the riches and all the fame, that is not the mission, right? The mission is God, right? So when we align our ambitions with God's desire and will for our life, He uses everything that we do for His glory. So we just have to realign our ambition back to, okay, why is my desire to be the best? Why is it? The byproduct should be so I can bring glory to God. The byproduct should be so I can spread the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ, right? It makes like the Olympics just wrapped, right? But the Olympians who won, and as soon as they got a mic in front of their face, start talking about Jesus and God, that's the winner to me. That, not the ones that are like, I trained hard, I did it, I worked so hard. The ones who initially out of their mouth start talking about God, I'm like, I don't even care where their relationship is. I'm like, that was the ambition. The ambition was to get to that platform where millions of people are watching you, and you say, I couldn't have done this without God. It makes people be like, whoa, wait a minute. for me, you know, so I think that when we put God first and realign our ambition, it doesn't have to be like a dirty word, but like you said, we have to keep it in check. You got to keep it in check because it drives things in different ways, right? It can make you go after things and lose sight of the goal of it, right? So in my life, I'm still working on this because I am an ambitious person, but I have to remind myself, why do I want this? Why do I want it? And what is it for? Right? Because the definition of ambition is, it's kind of loosely written to say it's something that you want and that you would work hard for and that you're dedicated to achieving. Right? So when I think of things that I'm dedicated to achieving, sometimes I look at things that I've been working at and I'm like, why do I want that? Just because I just want it? What's the purpose of it?
Yeah.
Like what? Why am I committed to doing this? And when I can bring it back to true purpose of why I exist, right? It gives me power to continue doing that thing, even though you hit bumps and you peaks and valleys, right? But when you're doing something just for your own, I would say selfish desire, right? Some of those things, you know, they are distractions in our life. We can be ambitious about distractions in our life. And so I've had those. I've had things that I've spent years going after and get to it and be like, you know what? This is just pulling me away from my mission. Right? This is and sometimes we wrap it in a nice package called entertainment or relaxation, right? But anything in excess or anything like you say going to the gym, anything that you do too much is not going to be good for your life. Right? It's going to distract you from what the purpose of your life is. Have you ever went to school, and we go to school to get educated and learn, and you're a professor, so that's awesome. You ever went to school or college, right? Because this is closer to, you know, you're only a few years removed from that, you know? You ever went on campus and you were there all day and you did more socializing and more just kind of hanging out than you did like academic, furthering your mind and building yourself up?
You're right. Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And so I spent the last couple years on a university campus, and I realized like everybody's not here for the same reason.
Oh, that's real. Come on.
I'm
now
like,
you're preaching.
Whoa.
Like that's real.
I'm like, we're all here on university. We're learning that this is the reason this place exists. But there's so many different things that people are distracted and they become ambitious about clubs and, you know, student council and all these other things. I'm like, but the main thing's just kind of floating off to the side. It becomes the side thing or the byproduct.
Yeah, let's be real. Sometimes it's like sleeping in. Like sometimes the ambition is just, you know, and by the way, I'm speaking from experience. I was one of those kids for a little while. I was like, man, as a student, sometimes the ambition is just like, take advantage of the fact that nobody's checking in on you. And that's not healthy for long term. That's not like an ambition you should be seeking. And by the way, that certainly is putting you above other people because you're not considering the people you're hurting in the future because you're not growing. You're not considering the professor who's like putting time into the lesson plan, whatever that looks like. Your parents who might be helping you pay or like, you know, are just counting on you to succeed. Anybody in your life. And the only thing that skipping class has done for me is like help me understand other students better. But I wouldn't say that was of great benefit because I'm pretty sure I could have understood it without skipping class at one point. But yeah, that's what I thought of as you were talking was a destination versus a journey. Because you were saying how it can distract you, right? So like I was talking to a group of students last night that will be working with me in ministry. And the one thing that kind of came up was I was talking to them about the future, like how we're going to build something. We're looking day by day, week by week, not trying to look too far ahead, but realizing that each time someone shows up at a ministry event, that could be a thing that changes like generations of someone's life. You know, like you don't know who's going to show up. Their family's not a Christian, but then they become a Christian. And so they marry a Christian woman or man. And then for generations, their family is impacted. And it's a story that 100 years from now, somebody be like, oh yeah, my dad went to a college thing and like found God. And we don't know who that's going to be. So every interaction matters. Every high five matters, every smiling face. So that's what I was talking to them about, is when somebody comes, we want it to be an environment, no matter where we're at, that people feel seen in a positive way, not exposed, but seen. I also, I mean, not for nothing, but I also said that I want the chapel at Chowan to be the dirtiest building on campus. And they kind of made a face, and I was like, no. It can be clean physically, but I want it to be somewhere people can bring their dirt, like bring their mess, bring the gunk and grime of their life, and like Jesus can wash it away. I want that chapel floor at the end of a Wednesday night service to be the dirtiest place on campus. So, because we're going to leave it on the floor. It's right. We're going to leave it there and let God clean it off. So the thing that I thought of, though, was on a couple of the points I made, I saw a couple of the, male chaplains, who I'm not going to call out by name. Shout out, you guys. And they were saying how I was hitting on some things that they had been talking about in terms of like relationships or dating or things like that. And just talking about kind of, I wanted to give them a sense, this was our first dinner together, a sense of who I am as a leader. And so they were saying how I noticed a few times when I hit on something about when you focus on God, that is when those love relationships will come into your life in a healthy way. When you focus on God, that's where the job opportunities come from, ironically. Like, we think in life we need to be ambitious after the job. We need to be ambitious seeking after God's heart, and then those things will be added unto you, right? Seek first the kingdom of God. So to me, it was interesting, their reaction, because they were like, I think one of them even said, can you give us dating advice? Because when I said I have 8 kids, all of a sudden it makes me an authority on, marriage and dating, which is,
it makes you authority on something.
No kidding. Yeah. So they were interested to hear more about like, well, how'd that work out? Like, how you make that work? Because they're like, oh, I see somebody that I want to have kids and a wife and all that. Right. Which is great. I'm glad for the life experience that it enables me to talk about it a little bit, if not just to share the things I've messed up on so they don't have to. So the interesting thing was, I could tell by what I was talking about when I was like, seek after God and then you'll find the wife that you really want. You could tell they were like, oh man, because you could just feel they've been seeking the wife. Like, they've been going after this girl, and maybe they're doing what we call missionary dating, where they're like, yeah, I'm just going to date a girl, and she seems like she could be a Christian. Like,
missionary dating. Wow, that's a term I didn't.
Missionary dating, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. So So my parents and I used to talk about that. Is like, you don't want to be missionary dating. Like, man, you know what? You'd be great for the kingdom of God and also my household.
Bring you on
so you're not a Christian yet, but let's start dating, and then maybe you'll gain faith then. Because, by the way, that isn't how it works. That's not a healthy way to go about it, because you've already softened yourself. You've already opened yourself up to a love relationship if you're dating, if you're courting, right? And so then to say, hey, now we need to edit where your relationship is with God. God, that needs to be aligned first. Your relationship with God. And I heard Robert Madu say, what you need to do is run after God, like run as fast as you can. And if you notice somebody that you're interested in keeping up with you,
run with them.
That's when you ask them out. Yeah. If they can run alongside you in your faith journey, that's when it's like, okay, that's what's going to be healthy long-term for us. So, and it's about being equally yoked, which is something the Bible talks about in terms of, is it like yaks or bison or whatever? What was the animal? I can't remember. Anyway, whichever animal, like cow-like animal, they used to throw the yoke over.
The ox.
You have to be equally yoked, like the oxen. Yeah. There, thank you. I was like, man, I feel so foolish on the pod. We're leaving that in. So when you put the yoke over an oxen, it was this piece of wood that is shaped to their back so they can pull that, trowel or whatever it is that cuts the dirt, right? Makes it so you can plant seeds deeper. And then humans don't have to do the work. Well, if you have oxen that are different sizes, if they're not able to be equally yoked, it's going to put a drag on the one who's larger, right? And it's going to be uneven. It's going to be falling down. So you need to make sure that you both carry the same weight, that you're both the same size in your love relationship with God. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to drag in a straight line. So all that to say, you could tell that some of these young men were like, there's a young lady that they might have to hit pause on developing a love relationship with because their ambition was to have her as a part of their life, not have the woman that God has for them as a part of their life. Not to say that she isn't, but you could tell by their reaction, they were feeling like maybe she wasn't. So that's the challenge, is if the destination is this young lady who you're interested in marrying, this young man who you're interested in marrying, you're missing the journey, which is the important part. Like your faith walk with God, and he's going to bring you to that destination. And every destination in life, when God works, it's like the beginning of the next journey. So you get that wife. Like when I married my wife, that wasn't like the end. Now everything's just like chilling. No, every new thing is a new journey, but you're together. And so again, I like what Robert Madu said, like whoever's running alongside you, right? That's where it's going to be equally yoked. So it's not about the destination. It's not like, well, man, I need to make sure I get this job by this age, which, by the way, this is exactly things I've said out loud. I want to be this by 30. I want to make this much money by that. That's all. And I don't mean to be unkind, but I guess I'm just talking to myself. And if you're listening to this, that's actually kind of foolish. I would say it's totally foolish, because what you're doing is telling God what's going to happen. Like, and what if God has a better plan? Like, what if he has more than you could ask, think, or imagine? And so what are you going to do? Like, do you want to fight against God's plan? Do you want to limit what he's doing? I don't think so. But the only way to do that is get outside yourself, so you're not constantly thinking about it. Like, I'm going to go worry about my relationships with other people. I'm going to go focus on building my relationship with God, reading my Bible more. Then I'm going to be able to better see this love relationship I should pursue. And I'll be more mature. I'll be the guy that I should be when the opportunities come in my life, right? I don't have to build up to the opportunity post achieving it and struggle and like, I want to be a good rock climber before I show up to the mountains. So I go practice. You shouldn't rock climb for the first time outdoors at an actual rock face, right? Like that's like a bad plan. So I think preparation is key, and ambition, right, can lead to good preparation as long as the ambition is, I'm getting better each day. The ambition is for the journey, not the destination. So that's what hit me when you were talking. Like everything you mentioned was a journey. Like the ambition is like improvement. The ambition is being more whole, being more healthy, and content with our life. The ambition isn't like this podium, right? So you mentioned Olympic athletes. I actually think it's cool when an athlete maybe doesn't win, but mentions God anyway because they're so grateful, right? They get bronze and they're like, man, God is so good. And you're like, well, you came in third. Man, but I could have come in last. Or I could, like there's like, there's a healthy perspective that ambition can blind you from the healthy perspective. Like, I didn't get there. I didn't achieve what, like, listen, every guy my age could have been like, well, man, I haven't achieved much because this famous singer or this famous actor by the age of 15 or 18 was like a multimillionaire, right? You could compare yourself the whole way. Or like, man, this preacher by 28, he was preaching at the biggest church. So I said something last night at dinner. I thought you might think this is interesting. I brought up that I was 38, and I said it like, man, God waited this long in my life to bring in the ministry opportunity or whatever it is, but I had to go through these things. When I said 38, a couple of the people at the table reacted like, oh man, you really got there young. And it humbled me because I was saying how late that was in my life. And they were like, man, so young. And it just hit me, for them to have that perspective, there has to be people in their life that have a position like I have been gifted by God right now that are much older. And I was like, man, I really need to appreciate where I'm at and the gift I've been given at the age I've been given it, because it's the exact right time. And it challenged me that even I was talking about some kind of destination when I said 38. And I was like, well, at the age of 38, to be able to start this ministry, and they're like, wow, so young. And like you could tell on their face. And I knew that they were not understanding how I was saying it. And that really caught me. Like, I got to be careful. Like, who cares? This is the age that God said it's time. And next year, God might be like, all right, it's time to stop that. Move on. You know what I mean? Like, whatever it is. So stay humble. Like, be about God's plan. That's my whole point. So anyway, I'll step down from that. That's the destination. You know, that's the destination distraction, we'll call it. So don't get destination distracted. Stay journey focused. That's how ambition is good.
Stay focused.
So I'll leave that to you. So Warren, what's something in your life where you feel like, has ambition ever gone sideways for you, or like maybe in the reverse? We can stay flipped on that. Is there somewhere where you're like, man, ambition really helped? Like staying focused, journey focused helped, or have you ever been destination distracted? I don't know the answer to this. I'm just like pitching it
with two hard ones there.
So, yeah, you go. I mean, well, you could do one or the other. I'm not trying to pigeonhole you. Be like, obviously, you're a guy that gets destination distracted. No, I'm that guy. Where I tend to get like that future thinking. You know what I mean? That's the problem. Is I start like planning my future, and God's like, whoa, we haven't even done these 3 things yet that are going to happen next month. Like, can you wait to talking about where you're going to be in 5 years? So I'm just curious how you deal with that.
I have experience with destination distraction, like ambition, like let's go. Back when I was, this had to be late 20s. I'd made chief petty officer and I was 28 years old. So I was a pretty young Navy chief.
I was like, is that, you got to help for those listening. Like, is that like pretty early?
That's pretty young. Most Navy chiefs are at least, you know, they're somewhere between, they're getting younger now, but they're somewhere between 30, 35-ish era in the Navy.
All right. So you were ahead of it by something like 2 to 7 years.
I was a young guy up in there with a lot of just seasoned, salty sailors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Salt and pepper guys.
Some good people, man. And when I got in this organization, chief in the Navy is a big deal. Chief's just, it's like a different level. And so when I got there, I immediately started looking at the next thing. Like I was like, okay, I'm going to rock this and I'm going to be senior chief. I want to be a senior chief. And I just like put on, in the Navy, they will promote you and you get paid like a year later. It's like you do the job for a whole year before you get paid. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep. It's the Navy calls frocking. So
I didn't realize that.
You're just so excited that you're promoted. You're like, whatever, let's go. I'll get the money when the money comes. Whatever, let's go.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't even getting paid for chief, and I was already ambitious for like the next level, like hardcore. And I mean, I was volunteering for everything. I was taking every leadership thing that needed to happen. Chief, me, like, and I'm in a group of like,
like we need to,
I'm in a group of like, 150 people, on this, at this command. And they're like, man, you're all over everything. You're running everything. And I had this senior chief sat me down and said, come here, man. What are you doing? He's like, Brown, what are you doing? I was like, man, I'm here to get it. I'm here to get it. He was like, I'm taking lunch money. I'm taking people's lunch. I'm here to win. Right.
Yeah.
And he was like, you need to slow down. He's like, I think what you're doing is good. He's like, but I think you need to slow down and enjoy the journey. He was like, you just made chief and you're like all over the place and you're doing a great job, but you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to burn yourself out and you won't be ready for the next step. You'll get there because you're doing all the things to get there, but you won't be ready when you get there because you want it so bad. And I remember when he said that to me, I was like, your advice to me is to do less so I can be more. That doesn't make sense. It didn't correlate. I was like,
yeah, I know for sure. Hold on. I know for sure in your head. You were like,
I was like, man, are you hating on me?
I know you. I know.
Yeah.
You were like, what do you mean?
Exactly. I was
take my gig.
I was sitting there like, wait a minute. I'm coming for your lunch money. Like, you try to slow me down.
You're next. Yeah.
But then I just kind of like, it kind of resonated with me. Like, it didn't like just go away. Cause I was like, he wants me to do less so it can be more. Doesn't make sense, right? And I I didn't step back from everything because my personality jumped full force in. But I kind of just kind of like, okay, let me ease off of the gas pedal a little bit And then I just started to, really be able to free myself up to spend time with my team, to build stronger leaders, to invest in people. And this is what I did to make chief. Like, so to make chief, you have to be a person who leads people and makes leaders. And so I got an opportunity to go back into that. And that's where I really found my win. I was like, oh man, I really can't do less, because when I started reinvesting my time into the people that I was leading and the people I was responsible for, they started succeeding more and they started growing more, which reflected on me. And I was like, oh, wow, I really started doing less of the, out front stuff to really like move forward. Right. So I was reading Proverbs just last night, and just kind of drives this point home, that a plan without wise counsel will fail. It's in Proverbs 15. But one who seeks wise counsel will find success. And so sometimes we have this ambition, right? And we are driven, but we're out here on our own, doing it our own way, right? I'm going to do this. It's going to work. It's going to succeed. It's going to be different than what you did it. I'm going to do it better than you. And we forego, right, all of the wise counsel that will help guide us along the way. And sometimes we're doing more work than we need to. We're putting more effort than we need to. And sometimes I really feel like God's saying to me, like, hey, leave some for me to do. You're trying to open all the doors, and I just want to open a window for you. You're trying to kick this door down. I don't want you to go through there. You're trying to do this. You're trying to force it. And all I want to do is open up the window so you can just crawl through it. Right. And so being ambition blind or destination blind, I want to get somewhere. And you're like, well, why do you want to get there? When you get there, you won't have the skills to maintain there, because the way you got there was you were a checklist person. Check it out. Right. Yeah. And my biggest example is like when you're raising children, like you have to to have a productive, to raise a productive citizen, a healthy adult. It's a lot of intricate little steps. It's a lot of time, and you can't just checklist it. Okay, potty train. Let's go on to the next thing. Reading. Like it doesn't work like that. There's all this in between stuff. It's the cuddling and the wiping the tears, and it's all the little stuff that you can't really put on the checklist that has to be done to get to the next level. Right. And so I balance my ambition with enjoying the journey that God has me on. I know there's a destination. I'm determined to get there, and I want to get there. But also along the way, I want to experience and receive everything God has along that journey. And so that, for me, that was my that's, going too much, trying to do too much, trying to be too ambitious without wise counsel. Right. So that wise counsel kind of brings you back in and helps you and guides you along that way. My positive one that I still haven't achieved till this day is I was in the Philippines years ago, and I was just, it's a beautiful place, but I was just taken back. I think I was going on a tour or something. I was with some guys, and we were in a van, and we stopped, and these kids were like selling it would look like gum or something, like just on the street. They had no shoes. It was like selling stuff. And I looked over and I seen like a family in a storm pipe. Like they were, like that's where they were living. Right. And when I got back to the ship, I was talking to some guys. I was like, hey, do you see those kids like selling like gum like at the stoplight? And they were like, Warren, you're too church, man. That wasn't gum. I was like, what do you mean it wasn't gum? He's like, that was not gum. Oh no. That was a nose powder. I was like, what? No, like, and I know it was like a little baggy, and I was like, yeah, that wasn't gum, man. That was a legal substance. Oh, dude. Right? And my heart kind of broke for the region that we were in. And God just kind of put something in me that one day that I would go back to the Philippines and do some amazing missionary work and some real financial work there in the Philippines. Right. And so he actually put a dollar amount on it that blew my mind. I was like, whoa, I don't even have that much. I'm not even close to that much. So I guess that my life's journey will take me to produce that and to bring that back to the Philippines. And ever since that day, I've always kept that ambition to be like, I got to get that. I got to reach that goal so I can go back and do what God told me to do. And so that's something that's on the forefront of my life. Like, remember the Philippines. Like, it's in my heart. Like, ambition. Like, remember the Philippines. God called me to go back there. So, and do some amazing work, some real financial prosperity work there.
For those listening to the pod, this is my first time hearing that story. Like, live on the pod, I've never heard that part. That's awesome. Hey, are you willing to share? Like, what is the dollar amount?
I was like, whoa. Yeah.
2 million. Here we go.
He's like, all right, you're going back there and you're going to do $2 million of you're just going to bless people and communities. And that's what you're going to do. And so, okay, God, I'm going to need that.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Let me introduce you to something called Bitcoin.
There you go.
Kidding. So I'm not kidding, but
You serious?
The joke is, yeah. So yeah, let's be real though. But I mean, I believe it. That's wild that's the number. Yeah. Like, I love it. Like, that's so that is some ambition where, like, you could be destination distracted for sure and be like, I'm going to grind and have to figure out the money myself and all those things. But like, if that's what God's calling you to do, I think what God is saying is like, this will be placed as for you as a steward. Yeah. Are you going to obey me about it? You know what I mean? That's wild. Like, that's such a good reminder for us all. And so that to me is like, with a number that big, right? And I'm not trying to like overly focus on it. And I don't mean to like break into your private finance life, that kind of thing. But like, that's going to require real humility from you and sacrifice from you to be able to give something like that up, or like be able to put forward something like that and not have it be about you. Because usually when people output something that large, or that is seen as something that large, they would look for gratitude in return. And I'm guilty of this too. Like, even, buying my kids Starbucks, sometimes I'm like, hey guys, let's not lose sight of the fact that like there are kids in the world that won't eat today, and you guys just got Frappuccinos. Yeah. So like, I'd like some gratitude. Please be grateful. But it's not, the truth is, like, really how I feel, and I need to be aware of this at all times, that's not necessarily fair to them. Like, my gift I gave them as a father is, it's not a reward for something, but I do this thing in post where it's like, I'm trying to make it a reward because I'm ambitious to succeed and get the money. And I don't want them to like lose sight of the fact that money's not free. But again, I'm saying, I'm not sure that's fair to them. Like, they don't have to be ambitious to receive a gift from me. And so I'm not even sure where that point is going, other than the fact that like, I want to be careful. Is my ambition selfish if I build this thing up selflessly to give to them and they're not grateful? So then I make it a selfish gift, like, that's a string attached, right? Whereas if I decide to give it to them, once that gift is out there, like, the benefit to them would be me being like, that's a gift. You don't have to do anything to earn it. Like, for instance, Jesus dying for us. Like, he doesn't take away the ability for somebody to find him and make him a part of their life if they don't say thank you for it from the very beginning. Right? There's no time limit on salvation, but for some reason I have a time limit on how quick they need to say thank you when I get them Starbucks, which costs me, if we're being honest, like very little. Like, grand scheme of things, buying them some Frappuccinos is nothing. Jesus died for us, and sometimes I'm not as grateful for that as I should be right away every morning, living that out. So what a challenge for us as people is like, in what ways are we selflessly ambitious and then we kind of let it slip back into selfishness? So maybe that's my challenge for you with the 2 million. Don't let it become the Starbucks of gratitude. Like, don't let it slip. And I don't think it will, but like, this is also a challenge for people listening, is like, if you're giving a gift, if God's like, I need you to pay for this person's 7-Eleven gas, I need you to, if he's challenging you to give up, like, I need you to take the shoes off your feet and give it to that guy. Like, God's not abandoning you to benefit them. He's asking you, what will you give up selflessly for my ambition to provide for these people? And in what ways, and this is like for our audience and for me, anybody listening, in what ways are you being selflessly ambitious and then allowing that to cloud what God's trying to do? Allowing that to cloud when it turns on itself, like when you try to take it back and make it selfish, right? It would be tough to donate something to a shelter and then be like, well, man, they didn't even like, I can't even get a shout out in the little fine print. Like I can't get the glory. There's that word again. I can't get the glory. So, man, that's a good reminder for me. Like I'm letting that wash over me. Like when God's like, I need you to do something for me, the glory is for him. It's not for us. So, man, so what's something right now? I guess you shared the Philippines. What's a small thing in your life that you're like feeling ambitious about these days?
Ooh, man.
Anything specific that you're like, man, I'm gonna run after this thing, and I think God's doing something in that area.
Wow. Ooh. Well, I think things are all like kind of connected. That thing with the Philippines, and I hate to go back to that, but I don't think I've never spoken that. It's always been in my heart. I don't think I've ever spoken it. I've got it written down.
And now you've spoken it to more people.
I just spoke it to a bunch of people, and it's my belief, and I trust that God's going to do that, and it probably won't ever need to be spoken again. We've talked about gratitude and why we do things. It kind of connects to what we're ambitious for, right? If my ambition was to be like, I need to do this so someone can see it, then my ambition is about me. You kind of mentioned that, right? But this is something God has called me to do. I'm just the vessel. I don't know where the money's coming from. I just know that he told me to do it. So when he provides that way, that's what will be done. And that's the best thing about following God. We don't need the credit. We don't. It's not about us. And so my ambition, number one, is I don't even know how this is going to happen. But I just feel led and called to talk to just men, and not necessarily men who have a correct relationship with God, but just from what God has done in my life, I feel led to talk to men on a larger scale about mental health, self-care, and taking care of themselves. I just think that we exist in a space today where we can't find our way back to God because we can't find our way back to ourselves. Because if we can find our way back to ourselves, we'll realize that who the creator is and how we actually operate. And so I'm ambitious about this journey that God kind of has me on, developing a platform to speak to young men, middle-aged men, old men, young boys, and equip them with ways to deal with their emotions and find their heart back to God. And so I think God has put in my heart to do in the near future, to just to call out and speak life into men. And so however that looks, right? However that looks, we got some things in the works, but however that looks, I just feel like outside of what I do for work, God's called me to that kind of project, and I'm excited about it. Don't really know what it all looks like, but man, following God, man, you'll get into some stuff. It'll be like, I didn't see that coming, but that's how it happened, right? I didn't see that, right? So, but I think I relate to, God's called me just to relate to men in general. Just, me and your friendship and how we communicate and we talk, man, I've grown so much and seen so much through our relationship and how iron sharpens iron. And I feel like my heart breaks for the men today who really don't have that man in their life who they can go to and who won't just be like sugar-coated for them. The man who will tough love them and tell them the truth and be like, hey man, I love you, but you're wrong here. Or, hey man, yeah, that's not the path that you need to go on, you know, and, or, hey man, you're killing it. Keep going. Like dig deeper, like, you know? And so I just feel like that bringing that back to the heart of God's men, it not only brings God the glory, but it strengthens the kingdom of God down here on earth. And I believe that's what we are here to do, because, you know, there's always talk about the last times. But what I see happening with our world, I see children who are not being led. I see families that are not being led. And it all, I believe that it all starts with the man of God, and it takes nothing away from the most beautiful thing God made, the woman. Right? You're gonna go ahead, right? But I believe that men as leaders have to stand up, and it really starts with getting back to the heart of what we were created for. And so I want to be a voice in the wilderness, calling men out and calling them back to the heart of God.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're not wrong either, by the way. There was I'm doing a terrible job like citing the reference here, but there was a study done. Oh man, it was like the American Bible Institute, potentially. So I'd have to look that up in post. But essentially, they looked at who in the family, if they become a believer. You may have heard this already, like, or seen this, but it was some crazy statistic, like, if the children of a family, like where the mom and dad aren't believers, become believers, there's like a 13% chance the whole family does. Then if the mom, right, if she's the first one to gain faith in Jesus, it's like 30% of the time the family does. For men, if the head of a household, the father, becomes a believer, it's like a crazy high, like 79% of the time. The whole family comes to know Jesus. So it moves from something like 13 to something like 30 to something like 80% of the time. And so men out there, like, Warren's right. It's time, because your decision to find Jesus or not is impacting your entire family. That's the responsibility of being a dad and a husband and just a leader of others, right? And there are great female leaders, but there's something about the impact of a father making a decision in a household that grows in their faith in Jesus, and like the father following his faith journey that allows the others to do the same. And so you're not wrong, man. Like, there's a huge gap. That's the challenge. That's a noble ambition, man, because that's something our world needs desperately as, man, fathers are pushed aside. Sometimes mothers are pushed aside for, like, what would you call it? The machine. Like, whether it's media or government or whoever it is, like, it just feels like the nuclear family, the ultra important pieces of a nuclear family are just being pushed aside for, marketing dollars. I mean, it's all like somebody else wants to be parenting your kids so they can just get that money. Like, that's what it really feels like to me. So in saying all that, I'm kind of struck by the fact that, like, I feel like after this episode, my ambition, as it's like shaping and I'm thinking about it, would be like lead a destinationless life.
Wow.
Like, see the whole thing as a journey, right? So I could certainly, as I move into a new ministry role, as I continue as a college professor, I could be like, man, I want to get this many students in here this month. I want to measure the statistics of this, but like, there seems to be some benefit, as we're talking about it, of like, have a journey filled life and a destinationless life, because the only real destination is heaven. Other than that, we don't know. Like, that's the kind of only part that I know, is that when I die, I'm going to get to see Jesus face to face. That's it. Other than that, I don't know what happens tomorrow. I don't know what happens the next day. I have no clue. And anybody tells you they do, beyond what's in the written in the Bible, they're making that up, man. They don't really know. So, I know the end of the story, but here's the interesting thing. Like, God doesn't call us to then spend time worrying about that. Like, what's the finish line look like? It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter when you're going to die. You don't need to know. It doesn't matter when God's going to call you back to heaven. What matters is what you do with the time that's here. And if I personally, Jason Fowler, get too distracted with destinations, I'm missing like huge chunks of the journey that are really fulfilling. And it does nothing to help the people that I'm on the journey with. So if I go home and instead of spending time with my kids, I'm worried about, the thing I have to do in a week or that email I have to send or whatever it is, that journey is getting banged up by the destination, which ironically, the whole point of the journey is those destinations that we set for ourselves. I kind of want to be done with that. Like, I just want to join Jesus on the journey and let him say it's finished. That's it. Like, I don't need to know. And by the way, no one in my life, here's the strange thing. It's just me. Like, if we're honest with ourselves, it's usually just us. Like, nobody, my wife, my kids, you, Warren, there's no one in my life saying like, hey, this needs to be the destination in 5 years.
We said that.
Like, and maybe that's not true for everyone, right? But just like that senior chief in your life, he wasn't saying like, here's the goal in 5 years. He was like, hey, slow down. It's going to work out. You don't have to worry about doing too much right now. And that's really sage advice. Like, you don't have to worry about it. Like I told the young men the other night, like, don't worry about finding a wife. Find God and he's going to bring you a wife. Like, if that's where your heart's at, and he's going to bring the right wife. Like, he'll bring the absolute best wife you could imagine. So good. So anyway, I found that to be true. Like, it just is what it is. He rolls it through, but like, seek God like insatiably. Go on the journey at a pace that's healthy, but continuously. Yeah. Don't wait for destinations, because then it's interesting. Like, I think about destinations, right? What are the big destinations in life? It's like get married, have kids, have a job, retire, right? But each of those things is really the next journey. So you get married, then you're on to the journey of like building a life together and having kids. But like, if the destination is have a wife, what happens to your wife when the journey becomes kids? You just forget about your wife? And what happens when you get the job and then you retire? Is your whole life journey over? Like, why is retirement the goal? How about like doing that thing the next day and being like, when it's time to stop working, God will let me know. Like, he'll make it obvious. Like, it's a way into a retirement life. The truth is, man, here's my real take. Like, we could do a whole episode on retirement if you want. I don't really believe in it. I'm not sure. And not in an unhealthy way, like you should have to grind for money forever. But like, what if we sought out careers and different things that like we didn't feel like we needed to retire from? Like, what if we built a healthy life where my relationship with my wife and kids is great and I'm able to maintain working? Because sometimes retirement is just like, man, I got to grind so hard to get to my end of life vacation. But like, man, the healthiest retirements I see, they're busier than when they're working. Like, they're hanging out with the grandkids. They're like going to small groups. They're helping build up their local church. Like, we have people at our church in Chesapeake that like, they're serving on Wednesday nights with youth. And I know they're retirement age, but like they're staying active. Like, they're being a part of people's lives. They're continuing the journey. They have given up on a destination filled life, right? There's no need to pause, because our life goes like paper that. Like, our life is done. Grand scheme of eternity, our life is so quick. So like, don't stop. Don't stop the flow. Keep going. Find new things. But find new things that help build relationships with other people that points them to Jesus. So that's my pitch. There you go. You're thinking about retirement. You could retire from your job, but maybe not a retirement mentality.
Don't retire from life.
The ambition would be continue. Yeah. Don't retire from life. The ambition is to seek a journey-filled life continuously. So that's my ambition. What do you think? You got some closing thoughts? I got a
couple closing thoughts for ambition, man. So one of my key things is one thing you should probably remove out of your vocabulary is I'm tired. Just take those two words, separate them, and use them somewhere else, right? Doesn't mean you won't get tired, right? But don't use it as a reason to not do something, not to achieve something. Get good rest at night. So when a challenge arises or something that will cause you to go a little bit deeper, you won't be like, oh man, I'm tired, I don't want to do that. Or, you go into this, man, I'm tired. Do as much as you can, as long as you can, right? Chase after the things of God and never give God the answer, I'm tired, right? Whenever opportunity you have to share the gospel, the love of Christ, help someone out, right? Take the mindset of I'm tired, or I can do something else, or I want to relax, and throw that away. I'm not saying burn your candle till it's burnt out. I want you to get healthy, 8 hours of rest a night. Get that 8 hours of rest, and the rest of the time, I want you out there. I want you out there ambitious, chasing the things and the desires that God has put in your heart. Life is a gift. Every single moment is a gift. And when you dial it down to like, you can't buy any more time. You can't. When your time's up, it's up, right? So live life full. Every opportunity that comes your way, like you don't have to take it, but review it. Don't just pass over any opportunity, right? Like make sure that it's the opportunity that you need to pass up, or it's the opportunity you need to take, right? Don't just be like, I'm so sick of opportunities. I'm not even going to look that way, right? Therefore, you won't miss, right? You not everything that comes your way, it might not be for you, but everything you don't even look at and consider, it definitely wasn't for you. You missed it. You missed the opportunity to say no, because sometimes there's a blessing. No, Jason has a whole podcast about that. But being ambitious,
sure.
Being ambitious, right, is making sure you're pointing your ambition in the right way, right? In the right direction with the right purpose. And that's always God. It's never, if your ambition is tied around you achieving something and you doing something, and that's the sole purpose, right? Your benefit should be the byproduct. That's how you know something's great. So if you're trying to achieve a weight that you want to achieve, you're trying to achieve a level of financial security, you're looking for a promotion, right? The benefit to you should always be the side product. The benefit to God should always be the main thing. Why does God want to put me in this position? Right? Why does God want me to have financial security? Why? What can I do for God with these things? Why do I want them? And why does God want me to have them?
Yeah.
Right? And then how can I bring him glory through all this? Right? And so when you lock that in, let me tell you, the journey, it doesn't get smoother. It does not get smoother. It's still a challenging journey, but the reward is so much greater. It's so much greater than just getting it for yourself. It's so much greater than doing it because you want it so bad, right? The purpose is I bring God glory with my life, and he takes care of the rest. I seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all the rest of these things are added unto me. And so that's my drive for ambition. Like, get rid of I'm tired. I've been a I'm tired person life, and when I'm conscious enough to be like, no, I'm just going to go. I'm going to push myself when my body says or my initial answer is to be like, no. I want the attitude of I want to say yes to good things before I say no. Right? I want the no to be earned and the yes to be automatic. Right? So when God asks or requires something from me, it should always be like, let's go. Let's go. And then be like, wait a minute, what are we doing? No, we shouldn't do that. Let's do this instead. Right? Right? Because sometimes you go too fast and you need to pull it back. Right? So control that ambition, point in the right direction, and God will do things with your life you never imagined. But get rid of I'm tired and go.
So good. I can't think of a better way to cap it off, man. That was awesome. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for sharing with us about, your destination distraction, your ambitions and things. Like I'm grateful for it, man. I'm gonna pray us out. It's so good. Yeah. God, I just thank you so much for the ability to have ambition for what you have for us. The energy, the ability to say, I'll go. You can have our yes. You can have our lives. And I pray that you would help us stay journey focused, and that you would have it be journey filled. And in that journey, that we would just be able to share you with as many people as we can. And that when the journey is done, that you would be able to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. I just thank you for the opportunity to serve you, and with our ambition, with our journey, with our lives. I thank you for friendships. I thank you for leadership opportunities. I thank you for all the doors that you're going to open for everybody here in this prayer, and just use our ambition for your glory and not for ours. We just thank you for everything. And in Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen. So good, brother.
So good.
Always a pleasure, man. Yeah. Yep. Let's go find some more journey.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
All right. Later.